I would say there's from my point of view, there's a creator God. And our mental capacity as human beings just so happens to match up beautifully with that. But the assumption people make is, especially a materialist or a skeptic who's trying to make a atheistic argument, is they pretend, well, wait a minute, this is just a human-like God, therefore it's created by man, therefore it didn't create man. And what they miss is the fact is there's certain limitations to our ability to kind of bring things into human mind and mental space, and even more restrictive rules around our linguistic abilities to discuss and effectively communicate those kinds of ideas. And I think we run into so many walls with our language and with those kind of abilities for communication that it's very important to understand the importance of going within and finding those answers there, and realizing when I talk about that, what I'm really saying is we're so used to treating the little linguistic brain, the linguistic voice in our head, the voice of our ego, as kind of the arbiter of all truth and worldview views of reality. And we forget that that's just the tiniest little part of activity going on in our mind, and yet in neuroscience we call this the dominant hemisphere. Dominant because that's where language lives. The main language areas are no bigger than that. They're tiny little regions, and yet they try and pretend they're running the show, they're the master. And in fact, no, the mystery of consciousness is your awareness. It's that experience of existing. I think, therefore I am, of René Descartes. It's that awareness of existence that is the really deep mystery, the observer. And I think the more we unravel that one, especially in deep meditation, the more we start realizing that thing we call consciousness is not just limited to this 3-pound gelatinous mass sitting in a warm, dark bath inside my skull. There's something far more going on about this thing we call consciousness. And it's far grander than that. And that's where I think all of this really leads, is to a much bigger worldview that allows for all those possibilities. But from my point of view, it really boils down to kind of free will. And that materialist science would try and pretend none of us have free will. It's all just chemical reactions, electron fluxes in the brain, pay it no mind. I think that's completely the opposite of the deeper reality. And that's where we can start to really investigate consciousness and see that going within is actually going out into the universe and becoming one with that co-creative God force.